Few people like disruption in their lives. I certainly don't. Yet, disruption and sometimes the entrance of chaos into our experience, it's just a fact, isn't it? I mean, you can resist it, but it's just a fact of human life. And our brain will quickly get into high gear to fight against disruption, to try and ensure it doesn't happen, or when it's underway, to try and manage it as best as possible, that it goes away as soon as possible. Because we like ordered lives, we like predictability, we like to feel we're in control, and therefore we're very resistant to change, because change, implicit with that, it infers that the old order or something is going to fall away, something is going to be removed, has to die, because something is nudging its way into our life, and we don't tend to like that. And it can come in many different ways. It's not always bad when disruption happens. It can come through a thought you might have one day that when you reflect on that thing you're thinking, it's mind-blowing. And you just can't see the world in any other way. You can't see it the way you saw it before. You can't unsee it, in other words. That insight you get, as I'm sure you can relate to now. You sometime in your life you experienced something, and the way you thought about it just changed everything. It was disruptive, but look what it led to. It could be the death of someone. That's often what happens when someone close to us dies and we reflect on their life. There's that time of grieving, of bereavement, of course, but it actually produces in us deep reflection about what's the purpose of my life? What am I alive for? Am I living it out? Am I going to get to the end of my life and look back and think I should have done, I could have done, I would have done? That's disruptive, that kind of thinking. And it breaks into your life. Often, when we're not expecting it, it could be a breakdown of a relationship that is disruptive. That could mean the selling of a house. That could mean a sense of isolation. That everything you'd worked up to that point has just suddenly gone. And, what's it all about? Is it worth it? It could happen in a number of ways, disruption. Not always bad. Sometimes. But if we understand that with disruption comes something very profound and actually positive, then we respond to it rather than react to it. It gets a bit harder the older you get, because we don't want our boat rocked when we're older. When we're older, I guess many people are just cruising for retirement and just want things settled. They're not looking for an adventure like Bilbo Baggins. They're quite happy just to sit back. Not everyone, of course, but generally speaking, stereotypically speaking, the older we get, we're kind of just looking for things to be stable. So when at that age disruption comes into our life, it is often seriously resisted because we don't want to change. And our brain, is insisting there's something I'm not happy with happening right now. I don't like chaos. Let's fight against this. But we see it in nature all the time. This is not just a human experience. Certain animals have to shed their skin if they're to grow into something that they're supposed to be. Chicks one day have to leave the cozy nest and the lovely life of being fed and looked after from morn till evening. The nest gets disrupted, and those chicks have got to fly, because that is what they're born for. Birds are born to fly, not to stay in cosseted nests like us. We don't want to see a child remaining a child for the rest of its life. We know that's unnatural. Therefore, it's the default flow of human life that we evolve, we grow. But the growth comes through the disruption. If we are to get to that next version of ourselves, if we are to ascend to the next level of consciousness, awareness of why we're here, of what we're alive for at this time, there will be disruption. Otherwise, we stay at that mediocre median line. And in the end, because we're always looking for constancy, we'll miss out on the very best at the expense of just taking the good and the refusal to embrace disruption. But there is another version of you that wants to come through, that can only come through by the disruption of your present circumstances. The way you're thinking, it might be connected to a job or relationship, but whatever happens, however chaotic and disruptive that force is, there is a new version of you that wants to come through. And currently, as you are, you cannot fit, you cannot expand into that future version of you as you currently are. So something has to change. And it's usually by way of disruption, a shaking up of the old order, so you can grow into what you're supposed to be, the new version of yourself that can best meet the opportunities, the challenges, the mission of life. I hope that's clear. I'll say it once more because we fight the whole concept. If what you need to be or do is not possible at your current level, something has to happen to trigger a shift, a catalyst of something. Something has to break, something has to fall away, something has to die, go into the ground so it can be resurrected. An awakening can be a very intrusive, disruptive process. But if that's what you feel in life currently, that is what is happening. There is something new coming. You're on the verge of a shift, whatever that might be, in terms of the way you view yourself, how you see the world, of a new calling, a new mandate opening up in your life. You can't get there. You can't walk into it in your current level of existence, of consciousness, of operation. So the disruption you're feeling, it may well be this signpost that this incredible shift is about to unfold. The worst thing you could do is resist it. So reflect for a moment on your own past, on your own path, and recall some disturbance in your life. And maybe at the time, it was really unwelcome. You didn't want it. Now you can reflect back and ask yourself, what actually happened in that time? Did I come out of that a better person? What shifted as a consequence of that disruption at that time? Or even if it's happening now, what could it possibly mean? What could be just on the verge, the cusp of happening in your life as you're going through this time of disruption? And rather than resist it, think, this is the next stage of my evolution as a human. I want to watch out for this. I want to make sure I'm moving with it, not fighting against it. And just watch something beautiful unfold. We can also see these shocks as they're not interruptions to our path, but they are the path. I suppose they're like the friction necessary to strip away all this mediocrity, the mediocre layers of our ego, and they reveal a much more radiant, essential self underneath us. In many spiritual traditions, a sudden loss, which could be a career loss, a relationship, or a health challenge, shall we say, it's viewed like a controlled demolition. I don't know if you've ever watched those videos where in an old apartment block that hasn't been lived in for 20 years, complete eyesore in the town, it comes down in a very magical way. The explosives are just put around the base of the apartment block or the tower building, and the detonators are set and it all comes down. Nothing else is destroyed around it. But in some ways, that controlled demolition is what disruption brings in our life. It's the structures we built our identity upon. They just crumble. They're just taken down. And we're forced to find a foundation in our life that can't be shaken. And so that often leads to a shift from external validation to an internal, a frequency-based sense of peace. And I see it as a transition from who I think I am to what I truly am. I also see disruption as a catalyst for innovation. If you look at history, it shows that humanity's greatest leaps in consciousness, technology, they rarely happen during times of comfort. True? So disruption, it breaks the trance of the status quo. When the old way of doing things no longer works, then the mind, we're forced to go into this state of heightened receptivity, I guess you could call it. It's like a shaking. This shaking is what allows for the download of a new, higher vibration set of ideas that were previously blocked by the noise of the mediocre. I think nature, which I've already alluded to, it provides a perfect blueprint for this. It's like a muscle to grow. It has to experience these microscopic tears, disruption, to grow stronger. Think of a forest. A forest requires a fire from time to time to clear the underbrush for new life. And often we as humans, this human vessel you and I inhabit, often require a reset, which will often come through something disruptive in the normal flow of things. That's the shedding of the old. So by breaking down old patterns of thought and physical stagnation, we're able to create the space for a more refined version of ourselves to emerge. I guess one that's more resilient and aligned with our current purpose. But I think on a global scale, thinking of disruption, it often acts as the like what I call a contact fulcrum. Fulcrum being that center balance point. When that collective old world feels increasingly unstable, it pushes individuals to seek out higher truths, deeper connections. And there's no doubt when I survey the world right now, how utterly chaotic it is, how utterly broken down on pretty much every level. The disillusionment has set in. And that discomfort of a disrupted society is often the trigger point, the catalyst for this massive migration shift towards esoteric and mystical understandings. People begin to look beyond the physical illusion of chaos to find what is the underlying harmony that exists in everything, between everything, what's going on behind the scenes. Because without it, we just continue on that normal trajectory. Everything's fine. I'm all right. It's all good. But we know it's not. We know something has broken down. The disruption that we sense, whether in society at large or in our own lives, think of it as a refining process. Something is being stripped away. Perhaps it's the loss of our identity, stripping away the ego. And what's coming in is something much more authentic. That is us. It's our truth. It's unexpected, and it's like a forced presence in the now. And it heightens our intuition. It heightens our awareness. It breaks old habitual cycles and puts us at a new frequency of operation. So I go back to the beginning. Who likes disruption? Well, none of us really. But it is an inherent part of the human experience. And rather than react to it, see it as I'm on the verge of something transformational right now. I don't know all the details of it. And at times it feels uncomfortable. But I sense that I'm about to shift to a higher level of consciousness, to a higher level of effectiveness, awareness of what's going on in the world within. I'm about to access higher levels of wisdom. Something is unfolding in my life. It's beautiful that I can't see fully now, but The disruption is the signal that's telling me I'm shifting into something wonderful, more radiant, more authentic. My experience is being heightened all the time. And if we can do that, then disruption just becomes the bridge, the portal to something incredible, magical and wonderful, not to be resisted, to fight against, nail and tooth, but to be embraced. And then, of course, we ascend, we expand into another level, and we're on that plane for a while, and then something will shake us out of bed once more. But if you see that this is how the universe works, if you get that, you become a lot more resilient to change. A lot more resilient. So if this is you right now, good things are happening. Go with the flow of the benevolent universe. It's shaping things for your ascension. Welcome them. Don't fight them. You're in the fire, and I know it might not make sense right now, but when it ends, and it will, the outcome is something so far beyond anything you could have imagined or seen.